This video didn't find you by accident. It was called forth by a signal you've been sending into the quantum field. A signal that broadcasts one undeniable truth. You are on the very edge of a breakthrough. What you are about to learn isn't just another spiritual idea. It is the operating manual for the final phase, the physics of how your reality is preparing to collapse into the version you have been consciously designing all along. And this brings us to the most crucial understanding you will ever receive about the nature of your reality. You are living in the final moments before your entire existence collapses into the version you've been calling forth through your consciousness. What you're experiencing right now, this emptiness, this delay, this feeling of being cosmically tested, is not evidence of failure. It is the unmistakable quantum signature of a system preparing for wave function collapse. You see, your consciousness doesn't just observe reality. Your consciousness is the mechanism that collapses infinite potential into singular experience. This isn't mystical philosophy. This is the documented, measurable reality of quantum mechanics. In the laboratory, scientists have proven that the act of observation literally determines which reality emerges from the field of all possibilities. The electron doesn't choose which slit to pass through. The photon doesn't decide its own spin. Your observation chooses. Your consciousness collapses the wave function. And right now, in this moment, you are the observer standing at the edge of your own quantum breakthrough. But here's what most people don't understand about this process. They're trapped in what we call the classical reality paradigm, believing that outcomes unfold through linear time and mechanical causation. They think manifestation works like a factory assembly line. Input effort, wait for processing, receive output. This is the grand illusion that keeps humanity locked in cycles of struggle and delay. The classical reality paradigm operates on the frequency of separation. It tells you that your desires exist somewhere out there, in some future timeline that you must somehow reach through effort and time. It creates the experience of waiting, of hoping, of desperately seeking external proof that your reality is changing. But every moment you spend in this seeking energy, you're actually generating quantum interference patterns that prevent the very collapse you're trying to create. Think of it this way. When quantum physicists want to study an electron's natural behavior, what's the one thing they cannot do? They cannot keep measuring it. Because every measurement collapses the wave function prematurely, preventing the natural evolution of the quantum system. Every time you desperately seek external proof of your manifestation, you're like a physicist compulsively measuring an experiment, collapsing the wave function before it can complete its natural evolution into your desired reality. The universe exists in quantum superposition until the moment of conscious observation. Your breakthrough, your new relationship, your financial abundance, your perfect health, your creative success, exists right now in a state of quantum superposition. It is simultaneously manifested and not yet manifested, waiting in the field of infinite possibility for the precise moment when your consciousness provides the observation that collapses it into physical experience. Reality is responding to you. Reality is responding to you. But not to your desperation, not to your seeking, not to your measurement energy. Reality responds to your observer consciousness, the part of you that knows with absolute certainty that collapse is inevitable and perfectly timed. Have you noticed how breakthrough moments never announce themselves in advance? How the phone call comes exactly when you've stopped checking your phone. How the opportunity appears precisely when you've released your death grip on needing it to appear. This isn't coincidence. This is quantum mechanics in action. You are not experiencing delay. You are experiencing the final phase of quantum evolution before collapse. Like Schrödinger's famous cat existing in superposition, simultaneously alive and dead, your desired reality is simultaneously manifested and not yet manifested. Your job is not to keep opening the box to check if the cat is alive. Your job is to maintain the superposition with absolute certainty that when the perfect moment of observation arrives, your reality will collapse into exactly what you've been holding in your consciousness. The emptiness you feel, that's not absence. That's the quantum field clearing interference patterns. The delay you're experiencing, that's not denial. That's temporal alignment, space-time itself arranging the precise coordinates for your breakthrough to emerge with maximum impact and perfect timing. You are not waiting for something to happen to you. You are the conscious observer whose very existence guarantees the collapse of infinite potential into singular manifestation. If this quantum truth is awakening something within you, declare in the comments, "I am the observer collapsing my reality." Let these words become your quantum signature, broadcasting to the field that you are no longer a passive experiencer, but the conscious architect of your own existence. Your declaration creates an energetic anchor in this moment of remembering. Every doubt, every moment of seeking external proof, every desperate measurement attempt is quantum interference. Every moment of serene knowing, every instant of observer consciousness, every second of certainty is signal amplification. The question that determines everything is this: are you the desperate scientist repeatedly measuring the experiment? Or are you the patient observer who knows that collapse is inevitable and perfectly timed? But if you are the observer collapsing reality through consciousness, what determines which reality emerges from the quantum field of infinite possibilities? What force selects which version of your life materializes when the wave function finally completes its collapse? The force that determines which reality emerges from the quantum field is not hope, it's not visualization, it's not even belief. It's the frequency you're broadcasting into the quantum field through your consciousness. And right now, you may be transmitting the one signal that creates destructive interference with your own manifestation. This is where most people unknowingly sabotage their own quantum collapse. They think they're helping the process by generating what they call positive energy. But what they're actually creating is quantum interference. Chaotic signals that scramble the wave function and prevent coherent collapse. The universe is receiving you clearly. The universe is receiving you clearly. But the question is, what frequency are you transmitting? Every thought, every emotion, every desperate attempt to control the timing and method of your manifestation sends a specific vibrational pattern into the quantum field. Classical consciousness operates on what we call the control frequency, a chaotic transmission pattern that generates destructive interference with your desired reality. This isn't metaphorical language. This is the literal mechanism by which your consciousness interacts with the fundamental structure of reality. Think of your consciousness as a quantum transmitter. When you're in a state of desperate control, checking for signs, forcing actions, anxiously monitoring progress, you're broadcasting on multiple frequencies simultaneously. You're sending out the frequency of "I want this," while simultaneously transmitting "I don't have this." You're broadcasting "I trust the process," while your underlying signal screams "I need proof right now." These conflicting frequency patterns create what quantum physicists call destructive interference. Just like noise-canceling headphones work by generating sound waves that cancel out unwanted noise, Your scattered quantum signals create an anti-wave that nullifies your own manifestation. The harder you grip, the more interference you generate. The more you try to control, the more static you create in your own transmission. Have you ever noticed that your biggest breakthroughs came not when you were trying the hardest, but when you finally let go? When you reached that moment of complete surrender, where you stopped fighting the process and started flowing with it. That wasn't giving up. That was the moment your consciousness achieved quantum coherence. Surrender isn't passivity. Surrender is the elimination of interference patterns. It's the conscious decision to stop broadcasting contradictory frequencies and instead transmit one clear, coherent signal to the quantum field. When you surrender control of the how and when, you're not giving up your power. You're eliminating the static that was preventing the universe from receiving your transmission clearly. The universe is receiving you clearly when you stop jamming your own signal. Your consciousness is designed to operate like a perfectly tuned quantum oscillator, generating coherent waves that move through the field of infinite possibility with zero resistance. But classical conditioning has taught you to broadcast like a broken radio, multiple stations playing at once, creating nothing but noise. If you recognize the interference patterns you've been creating in your own life, write below, "I am eliminating quantum static." This affirmation serves as a frequency reset, clearing the chaotic signals that have been preventing your pure transmission from reaching the field. Your conscious declaration begins the coherence calibration process. True quantum flow occurs when your entire being resonates at a single pure frequency. Not the frequency of wanting, not the frequency of hoping, the frequency of knowing. This is what we call temporal resonance, when your current consciousness vibrates in perfect harmony with your desired future reality. Every moment you spend in surrender, you're allowing your quantum transmitter to calibrate itself. Every second you release control, you're clearing the interference patterns that have been blocking coherent transmission. Every breath you take in a state of trust, you're fine-tuning your consciousness to broadcast the pure signal of your intended reality. The ancient masters understood this principle intuitively. They called it Wu Wei, effortless action. They spoke of moving like water, flowing around obstacles rather than fighting through them. What they were describing, in the language available to them, was the art of quantum coherence. They had learned to eliminate interference patterns and broadcast pure frequency into the field of creation. But here's what they couldn't have known with scientific precision. Your consciousness doesn't just send signals into the quantum field. Your consciousness is a localized expression of the quantum field itself. When you achieve coherent transmission, you're not just communicating with the universe. You're synchronizing with your own deeper nature. The universe is receiving you clearly because you are the universe, remembering how to communicate with itself. This is why surrender feels so powerful when you truly understand it. You're not giving up control to some external force. You're releasing the interference patterns that were preventing different aspects of your own consciousness from achieving quantum entanglement with each other. You are not giving up power when you surrender. You are eliminating the static that was preventing the universe from receiving your signal clearly. But what determines the exact nature of this coherent signal you're now transmitting? What makes the quantum field resonate to one frequency over another? The answer lies in understanding how consciousness itself operates as a frequency generator, and why abundance and scarcity exist on completely different vibrational dimensions. The quantum field resonates to one frequency above all others, not the frequency of wanting, not the frequency of hoping, but the frequency of having. And right now, Your consciousness is calibrated to broadcast on one of two fundamental frequencies: the scarcity oscillation or the abundance resonance. Every single experience in your reality is a direct reflection of which quantum frequency your consciousness is currently transmitting. This isn't metaphorical language. This is the documented mechanism by which consciousness creates experiential reality through frequency resonance. Classical reality has programmed you to operate on what we call the scarcity frequency, a quantum vibration that literally repels the experiences you desire. Every moment you spend thinking, "I need this, I want this," or "when will this happen?" you're calibrating your consciousness to the precise frequency of not having. You're broadcasting the quantum signature of lack into a field that can only respond by delivering experiences that match that vibrational pattern. Abundance is resonating through you. Abundance is resonating through you. But only when your consciousness learns to oscillate at the frequency of already having rather than the frequency of desperately seeking. Think of your consciousness as a quantum tuning fork. When you strike a tuning fork calibrated to 440 Hz, every other object in the room that can vibrate at 440 Hz begins to resonate sympathetically. The universe operates on this same principle of resonant frequency matching. When your consciousness oscillates at the frequency of abundance, the quantum field begins to resonate at that same frequency, organizing all particles, possibilities, and probabilities to match your vibrational pattern. But here's the quantum paradox that keeps most people trapped in scarcity cycles. You cannot tune to the frequency of having by focusing on what you don't have. You cannot calibrate to abundance by amplifying the signal of lack. Every thought of "I wish I had" generates a standing wave pattern that creates destructive interference with the very reality you're trying to manifest. Have you ever noticed that the people who seem to effortlessly attract wealth never seem desperate for money? That those who magnetize love aren't frantically searching for relationships? That the most successful creators aren't anxiously checking their metrics every hour? They're not broadcasting the frequency of need because they've learned to oscillate at the frequency of natural abundance. This is what we call quantum frequency calibration. These individuals have tuned their consciousness to resonate with having rather than wanting. Their mental, emotional, and vibrational patterns generate coherent waves that move through the quantum field without resistance, naturally attracting experiences that match their abundance oscillation. The scarcity frequency operates through what classical physics would call a deficit model. You believe you must get something external to fill an internal void. But quantum consciousness reveals that this is exactly backwards. The external world is not the source of your abundance. It's the reflection of your abundance frequency. You don't become abundant by accumulating things. You attract abundance by learning to oscillate at the frequency of someone who already has everything they need. This requires a fundamental reprogramming of your quantum oscillator. Instead of broadcasting, "I need more money," you begin transmitting, "I am financially abundant." Instead of radiating, "I'm looking for love," you start resonating, "I am deeply loved and loving." Instead of oscillating, "I want success," you calibrate to, "I am naturally successful." The quantum field cannot distinguish between the frequency of having something and the frequency of knowing you will have something. To the field, they are identical vibrational patterns. Your consciousness is designed to function as a precision frequency generator, capable of tuning to any vibrational state you consciously choose. But classical conditioning has taught you to use this incredible quantum technology to broadcast shortage, limitation, and need. You've been using the most sophisticated manifestation device in the universe to create experiences of lack. Every morning when you wake up, your consciousness calibrates itself to a base frequency. Most people unconsciously tune to scarcity, immediately checking what they don't have, what isn't working, what needs to be fixed. But quantum masters consciously calibrate to abundance frequency before they even open their eyes. They begin each day by oscillating gratitude, appreciation, and knowing. This isn't positive thinking. This isn't affirmations. This is quantum frequency engineering, the deliberate calibration of your consciousness to resonate with the experiences you choose to attract. When you truly understand this principle, you realize that abundance isn't something you achieve, it's something you tune into. Wealth isn't something you accumulate, it's a frequency you embody. Love isn't something you find, it's a resonance you generate from within your own quantum field. Abundance is resonating through you when you stop trying to get it from outside yourself and start generating it from your own consciousness. The most profound shift occurs when you realize that your consciousness doesn't just broadcast frequency. Your consciousness is frequency. You are not a physical being having spiritual experiences. You are a quantum frequency having physical experiences. You are abundance itself, temporarily forgetting its own nature and searching for itself in external forms. If you feel the abundance frequency stirring within your consciousness, affirm, "I oscillate at the frequency of having." Writing these words activates your quantum tuning fork, calibrating your consciousness to resonate with prosperity rather than scarcity. This declaration updates your vibrational signature in real time. But how does the quantum field know which version of you is transmitting? How does it distinguish between the frequency of your past limitations and the frequency of your expanding possibilities? The answer lies in understanding the most powerful quantum technology available to consciousness: the ability to shift your entire reality by updating your identity frequency. The quantum field recognizes you not by what you want, not by what you hope for, but by the quantum signature of who you are in this moment. Your identity functions as the ultimate reality selector, a quantum access code that determines which probability streams you can enter and which experiences the field will deliver to your consciousness. And right now, you may be broadcasting the identity signature of someone who doesn't yet have what you desire, which creates an impenetrable quantum barrier between you and your intended reality. This is the most sophisticated level of reality creation, and it's why traditional manifestation techniques often fail. You can visualize abundance, affirm success, and take inspired action. But if your core identity matrix is still calibrated to limitation, you're essentially trying to access a high-security quantum system with an outdated password. The universe can only deliver experiences that are compatible with your current identity frequency. I am the quantum signature of my fulfilled desires. I am the quantum signature of my fulfilled desires. This isn't affirmation. This is quantum programming. This is the conscious updating of your identity matrix to match the person who naturally receives what you're calling forth. Classical consciousness operates under the future self paradox, wanting to become someone while still embodying the identity patterns of someone who lacks what they want. This creates what we call quantum identity conflict, where your consciousness is simultaneously broadcasting two incompatible frequency signatures. You're transmitting, "I want to be wealthy," while your identity matrix continues to generate, "I am someone who struggles financially." These conflicting quantum signatures create destructive interference patterns that prevent coherent reality collapse. Think of your identity as the quantum operating system that runs the program of your life. Every thought you think, every action you take, every possibility you can perceive is filtered through this operating system. When your identity is programmed with limitation, even the most powerful manifestation techniques run on restricted access. You're trying to run quantum consciousness software on classical limitation hardware. Have you ever noticed that certain people seem to effortlessly attract opportunities that would be miraculous for others, yet appear completely normal to them? They're not more talented, more connected, or more deserving. They're operating from an identity matrix that naturally generates those experiences as inevitable outcomes, rather than extraordinary exceptions. The quantum field doesn't respond to your wishful thinking. It responds to your identity's quantum signature, the deep, energetic pattern that your consciousness broadcasts about who you are and what naturally belongs in your reality. When someone with a wealth identity consciousness encounters a financial opportunity, their quantum signature automatically creates resonance. When someone with a scarcity identity encounters the same opportunity, their signature generates dissonance, and the possibility collapses before it can manifest in their experience. This is why identity shift is the most powerful reality technology available to human consciousness. When you consciously update your identity matrix, you're not just changing how you think about yourself. You're literally updating the quantum access codes that determine which reality streams you can enter. You're reprogramming the fundamental algorithm that the universe uses to determine what experiences to deliver to your consciousness. The process begins with quantum identity recognition, becoming aware of the current operating system your consciousness is running. Most people are operating on identity programs installed during childhood, running limitation software that was appropriate for a 5-year-old, but completely inadequate for a quantum being capable of conscious reality creation. You've been using Stone Age identity programming to navigate a quantum universe. Every morning when you wake up, your consciousness loads your identity matrix and begins broadcasting that signature into the quantum field. The field receives your identity transmission and immediately begins organizing all particles, possibilities, and probabilities to match your quantum signature. This isn't a delayed response. It's instantaneous quantum entanglement between your identity frequency and the field's creative potential. True quantum masters understand that identity is not fixed. It's fluid, programmable, and completely under conscious control. They know that changing external circumstances while maintaining the same identity is like rearranging furniture in a house while keeping the same foundation. The most efficient path to reality transformation is identity matrix updating, becoming the version of yourself for whom your desired reality is simply the natural expression of who you are. When you truly embody the identity of someone who naturally receives abundance, loves deeply, creates brilliantly, and lives powerfully, you're not pretending or practicing positive thinking. You're activating quantum identity states that were always available to your consciousness, but were locked behind outdated access codes. You are not becoming someone new. You are revealing the quantum identity that was always available to you, now activated and broadcasting clearly. If you're ready to update your identity matrix, declare, "I am the quantum signature of my fulfilled desires." This statement functions as consciousness programming code, installing the new identity frequency that gives you access to experiences previously locked behind outdated access patterns. Your words become the password to your expanded reality. The most profound realization is that every possible version of yourself, successful, abundant, loved, creative, powerful, already exists as potential identity matrices within your quantum consciousness. Your current identity is simply the version you've been most consistently accessing. You have infinite identity options, and conscious selection is your ultimate creative power. But how long does this identity transformation take to manifest in physical reality? When will the quantum field complete the rearrangement process and deliver experiences that match your updated identity signature? The answer to this question reveals the most profound secret about the nature of time, manifestation, and the quantum entanglement between your consciousness and the fabric of space-time itself. The moment your identity matrix updates, the universe doesn't begin working on your behalf. It begins working as you. You are not waiting for the quantum field to deliver your desires to you. You are witnessing the quantum field rearranging itself to match the entangled connection that already exists between your consciousness and your desired reality. This is where most people misunderstand the nature of manifestation timing. They think they are here while their desires are somewhere else in time, not realizing that through quantum entanglement, they and their intended reality exist as a single interconnected system operating across multiple dimensions simultaneously. Every internal shift you make creates instantaneous adjustments in the fabric of space-time itself. Classical consciousness perceives waiting as separation, believing there's a gap between your current experience and your desired outcome that must be crossed through time. But quantum consciousness reveals that this is the grandest illusion of linear reality. There is no gap. There is no delay. There is only quantum entanglement expressing itself through temporal resonance. Reality is rearranging to match me. Reality is rearranging to match me. This isn't hope. This is the fundamental operating principle of quantum entanglement applied to consciousness and manifestation. Think of quantum entanglement in its purest scientific form. When two particles become entangled, they share a quantum state that transcends space and time. If you change the spin of one particle, the other particle's spin changes instantaneously, regardless of the distance separating them. Einstein called this spooky action at a distance, but it's simply the universe demonstrating that separateness is an illusion of classical perception. Your consciousness and your desired reality operate under this exact same principle. The moment you authentically embody the identity frequency of someone who naturally receives what you desire, you're not sending a signal to the universe requesting delivery. You're changing your quantum state within an already entangled system, and the universe must instantly restructure itself to maintain the entangled connection. Have you ever noticed how breakthrough moments seem to arrive not when you're desperately seeking them, but when you've finally achieved internal resolution about having them? How the perfect opportunity appears precisely when you've stopped anxiously checking for it. How the right person enters your life exactly when you've found peace with being alone. These aren't coincidences. These are visible manifestations of quantum entanglement synchronization. What you call synchronicities are simply the observable evidence that your consciousness and your desired reality are quantum entangled. Every meaningful coincidence, every perfect timing, every moment when exactly the right information or opportunity presents itself is the universe demonstrating that it's not responding to your requests. It's expressing the same consciousness that you are. The classical mind interprets synchronicities as external confirmations that something might be coming. But quantum consciousness recognizes them as internal confirmations that the entangled system is actively realigning itself. Synchronicities aren't signs that your manifestation is approaching. They're proof that your manifestation is already happening through quantum reorganization. This is why patience becomes power when you understand quantum entanglement. You're not waiting for some external force to arrange circumstances in your favor. You're allowing the interconnected system of your consciousness and your desired reality to complete its natural synchronization process. Every moment of trust, every breath of knowing, Every second of quantum flow allows the entangled system to evolve without interference. Classical impatience creates what we call temporal static, anxious energy that disrupts the natural flow of quantum entanglement. When you constantly check for external proof, you're like a scientist repeatedly measuring an entangled particle system, disrupting the very coherence that allows the entanglement to express itself clearly. But when you maintain what we call temporal resonance, the alignment between your current consciousness and your desired future reality, you're providing the stable quantum environment that allows entanglement to manifest through increasingly powerful synchronicities. Time becomes your ally rather than your obstacle, because you understand that you and your desires exist in quantum superposition across all temporal dimensions. The most profound realization is that divine timing isn't the universe deciding when you're ready to receive what you want. Divine timing is the natural rhythm of quantum entanglement expressing itself through the dimensional layers of space-time. You are not waiting for divine timing. You are divine timing, conscious of itself and orchestrating its own perfect unfoldment. Every delay that once frustrated you was actually temporal alignment, space-time organizing itself around the quantum signature of your expanding consciousness. Every moment that seemed like denial was actually the universe clearing interference patterns and outdated probability threads to make space for experiences that match your updated identity frequency. You are not waiting for your future. You are quantum entangled with it, and every internal shift creates instantaneous adjustments in the multidimensional matrix of possibility. If you can feel the entanglement between your consciousness and your desired reality, right, I am witnessing quantum rearrangement. This acknowledgement accelerates the synchronization process, confirming to the field that you understand the true nature of divine timing. Your recognition amplifies the entanglement effect. But as this quantum rearrangement accelerates and your reality begins shifting at unprecedented speed, why do the old patterns sometimes seem to fight back with increased intensity? Why does the resistance appear to amplify just as the breakthrough energy reaches its peak? The answer reveals the final quantum mystery that determines whether you complete the transformation or abort the process when you're moments away from emergence. The resistance you're experiencing right now, the doubt, the fear, the sudden urge to abandon everything you've been building, is not evidence that you're failing. It is the quantum signature of a system undergoing phase transition, and it always reaches maximum intensity just before the breakthrough emerges. What you're calling internal resistance is actually quantum turbulence, the natural instability that occurs when one reality structure is dissolving and another is crystallizing in the same dimensional space. This is the most critical moment in your entire transformation journey, and it's where most people abort the process. They interpret the intensifying chaos as a sign they've made a mistake, not understanding that they're witnessing the final collapse of their old quantum state. Every wave of doubt, every surge of fear, every moment of overwhelming confusion is not opposition. It's the death throes of a reality pattern that can no longer coexist with your expanded consciousness. Turbulence confirms my transformation. Turbulence confirms my transformation. This is not just a mantra. This is quantum navigation technology that allows you to use resistance as a GPS signal, showing your exact proximity to breakthrough. Classical consciousness interprets resistance as a stop sign, believing that internal turbulence means you're moving in the wrong direction. But quantum consciousness recognizes resistance as phase transition data, precise information about which old frequency patterns are undergoing quantum decay to make space for your new reality structure. The intensity of the turbulence is directly proportional to the magnitude of the transformation that's completing itself. Think of your consciousness as existing in quantum superposition between two reality states: the old pattern that defined your limitations and the new pattern that expresses your expanded possibilities. During the transition phase, both quantum states attempt to occupy the same space simultaneously, creating what physicists call destructive interference. You're not experiencing resistance. You're experiencing the interference pattern between two incompatible reality frequencies trying to exist in the same consciousness simultaneously. Have you ever noticed that the most profound breakthroughs in your life were preceded by periods of intense internal chaos? That the greatest leaps forward came after phases where everything seemed to be falling apart? That the most powerful transformations emerged from moments when you felt completely lost and overwhelmed? Those weren't obstacles blocking your progress. Those were the quantum signatures of old reality structures undergoing necessary dissolution. Every thought pattern that served your previous identity must undergo quantum decoherence before your new identity can achieve full coherence. Every belief system that maintained your old limitations must collapse before your expanded capabilities can stabilize. Every emotional pattern that reinforced your past reality must dissolve before your new reality can achieve structural integrity. This is why resistance intensifies as you approach breakthrough. The old quantum state is making its final attempt to maintain coherence before it collapses entirely. The most sophisticated form of quantum navigation is learning to read resistance as information rather than opposition. When doubt arises, it's showing you exactly which aspect of your old identity is dissolving. When fear emerges, it's revealing precisely which limitation pattern is undergoing quantum decay. When overwhelm appears, it's mapping exactly which reality anchor is being released to make space for expansion. You are not being tested by the universe. You are witnessing the quantum turbulence that always occurs when one reality dissolves and another crystallizes. Classical resistance fighting creates what we call amplification feedback loops. Your struggle against the turbulence actually increases its intensity by feeding energy into the very patterns that are trying to dissolve. But quantum navigation involves maintaining observer consciousness during phase transition, watching the dissolution process with fascination rather than fear. Think of a butterfly emerging from its cocoon. The cocoon doesn't resist dissolution. It recognizes that its structural breakdown is necessary for the butterfly's emergence. The butterfly doesn't fight the transformation process. It trusts the natural intelligence of metamorphosis. Your consciousness is undergoing the same type of quantum metamorphosis, and resistance is simply the cocoon of your old reality completing its dissolution. The most powerful quantum navigation technique is resistance translation, converting the energy of turbulence into fuel for transformation. Every wave of doubt becomes data about old programming that's dissolving. Every surge of fear becomes intelligence about limitations that are collapsing. Every moment of chaos becomes confirmation that reconstruction is occurring at quantum speeds. The universe is not creating obstacles to test your commitment. It is providing the exact energetic conditions necessary for your old quantum state to collapse and your new quantum state to achieve stability. When you truly understand this principle, you begin to welcome resistance as your transformation ally. You start interpreting increasing turbulence as approaching breakthrough rather than approaching failure. You recognize that maximum instability always precedes maximum evolution in any quantum system undergoing phase transition. Turbulence confirms my transformation because I am no longer someone who avoids change. I am someone who navigates quantum evolution with precision and trust. But what happens when the old quantum state finally completes its dissolution and your new reality structure achieves full stability? What kind of action emerges from a consciousness that has successfully navigated phase transition and now operates from complete quantum alignment? The answer reveals the most advanced form of reality creation available to human consciousness. When your consciousness completes its quantum phase transition and achieves full alignment with your expanded reality, an extraordinary phenomenon emerges. Effortless action that produces exponential results. You enter what we call the quantum flow state, a condition where your movements through reality generate zero resistance and maximum impact because you're operating in perfect coherence with the fundamental forces that create worlds. This is the final frontier of conscious reality creation, and it reveals the most profound secret about the nature of manifestation itself. There are only two types of action available to human consciousness: classical action, which fights against the quantum field's natural currents, and quantum coherent action, which moves in perfect synchronization with the field's creative intelligence. One exhausts your energy while producing minimal results. The other energizes you exponentially while creating reality-shifting impact. I move with quantum precision. I move with quantum precision. This is not about moving faster or working harder. This is about calibrating your consciousness to operate as a natural extension of the quantum field's own creative momentum. Classical consciousness operates through what we call the effort paradigm, believing that struggle and force are necessary components of achievement. This creates what quantum physicists recognize as drag coefficient, the resistance that occurs when an object moves against the natural flow of the medium it's traveling through. Every forced action you take generates quantum drag, requiring enormous energy expenditure while producing minimal forward movement. Think of classical action as trying to swim against a tsunami. No matter how strong you are, how determined your effort, or how perfect your technique, you're fighting forces infinitely more powerful than your individual will. You're using finite personal energy to oppose infinite universal energy, and the mathematics of that equation guarantee exhaustion and minimal progress. But quantum consciousness reveals that this entire struggle is based on a fundamental misunderstanding of how reality operates. The quantum field isn't neutral territory that you must conquer through effort. It's an intelligent, responsive medium that naturally supports consciousness aligned with its creative flow. When you learn to move in quantum coherence with the field, you're not swimming against the tsunami. You're riding the wave's infinite power. Have you ever experienced moments when everything seemed to fall into place effortlessly? When the right people appeared at the perfect time, when opportunities opened faster than you could have imagined, when your actions produced results far beyond what seemed possible. Those weren't lucky breaks. Those were glimpses of what becomes your normal operating state when you learn to generate quantum flow consistently. The difference between forced action and quantum coherent action is the difference between artificial intelligence and natural intelligence. Forced action operates through programmed responses, trying to manipulate reality through predetermined strategies. Quantum coherent action operates through intuitive intelligence, allowing the field's creative wisdom to express itself through your consciousness as inspired movement. This requires a complete recalibration of how you understand the relationship between effort and results. Classical conditioning has taught you that more effort produces better outcomes, but quantum mechanics reveals that this is precisely backwards. Maximum results emerge from minimum resistance, not maximum force. Your consciousness is designed to function as a quantum flow detector, naturally sensing the path of least resistance toward your desired outcomes. But classical programming has taught you to override this natural guidance system and instead force movement through willpower and determination. You've been using Stone Age navigation tools to traverse a quantum landscape that requires quantum sensitivity. True quantum flow occurs when your entire being resonates in perfect harmony with the field's natural currents. Your thoughts align with the field's intelligence. Your emotions attune to the field's frequency. Your actions become expressions of the field's creative intent, rather than attempts to override it. You stop being someone who acts upon reality and become someone through whom reality acts upon itself. The ancient masters understood this principle intuitively. They spoke of Wu Wei, effortless action. They described moving like water, finding the natural path through obstacles. They taught about aligning with the Tao, the natural flow of existence. What they were describing, in the language available to consciousness before quantum physics, was the art of coherent movement through the intelligent field of creation. But here's what they couldn't have articulated with scientific precision. When you achieve quantum flow, you're not just moving efficiently through reality. You're participating in reality's own self-creation. You become a conscious expression of the same creative intelligence that organizes galaxies, orchestrates ecosystems, and evolves consciousness itself. I move with quantum precision because I am no longer separate from the forces that create worlds. I am those forces, consciously directing themselves through human experience. This is why you're here, reading these words, remembering this truth. Not to learn techniques for getting what you want, but to remember what you are. A localized expression of infinite creative intelligence, designed to experience the universe creating itself consciously through your unique perspective. Every person who has ever achieved seemingly impossible results, who has created revolutionary breakthroughs, who has generated miraculous transformations, was operating from this same quantum flow state. They had learned to move as extensions of the creative field, rather than separate entities trying to manipulate it. You are not separate from the quantum field that creates worlds. You are the quantum field, localized in human form, now awakening to your true nature as the conscious architect of reality itself. If you recognize yourself as the quantum field awakening to its own creative power, affirm your ultimate truth. I am the universe creating consciously. Let this declaration mark the completion of your consciousness activation. Share what quantum principle resonated most deeply with your being. Your insight becomes part of the collective awakening happening through this frequency of understanding.